Smoke choked the air, thick and acrid, as the distant thud of artillery shells shook the earth beneath their feet. Amidst the ruins of what was once their neighborhood, the Al-Masri family pressed forward, a mother clutching her child's trembling hand. The tattered backpack passed down from one generation to the next, strapped desperately to the boy's frail back. Around them, the city was dying, buildings reduced to skeletons, streets cracked and strewn with rubble, a silence punctuated only by the intermittent crash of falling masonry and the faint cries of those caught in the nightmare. How did they survive this? What horrors had forced them to flee and become shadows wandering the ghostly remains of the homeland they once knew? This is the terrifying truth the world was never meant to hear. It was 2014, deep within the heart of a Middle Eastern conflict that had devoured cities and shattered countless lives. The air was cold, heavy with the smell of diesel engines and burning wood. The Al-Masris lived in a small apartment on the outskirts of a city that had once been vibrant with life and bustling bazaars. Before the war's onset, the children played freely in alleyways, the scent of fresh bread and spices filling the air. But as tanks rolled in and sirens wailed, the peaceful rhythms of their lives were shattered into fragments of fear and uncertainty. For years, a creeping dread had grown silently beneath the surface, the quiet tension before a storm that swallows everything whole. The first bomb fell on a quiet dawn, shaking their home, ripping apart the walls that had kept their family safe for generations. Their familiar streets transformed into a battlefield overnight. Explosions became routine, the booming cacophony a relentless reminder that nowhere was safe anymore. The day their lives changed forever began like any other, but ended in a haunting nightmare. The family was at breakfast when the distant rumble intensified. Suddenly, the ceiling cracked, shards of plaster rained down. The mother screamed, grabbing her children, the youngest barely able to grasp what was happening. Seconds later, the streets exploded in chaos. Gunfire echoed, mixed with screams and the relentless pounding of boots. Their home was no longer a refuge, but a target in a war neither caused nor chose to fight. With nothing but a tattered backpack and hearts heavy with loss, the Al-Masris set out into the ruins. Every step was a gamble with death, every breath a whisper between hope and despair. They dodged patrols, crawled through dark alleys slick with mud and blood, and watched as families around them vanished, swallowed by the merciless conflict. The youngest child clung to the mother's side, eyes wide with terror, fingers tightening on the frayed straps of that backpack, a symbol of everything they had left behind. Their journey was a mosaic of survival instincts and raw emotion. Nights spent hiding in shattered basements, the cold seeping into their bones. Days filled with the desperate search for food and water, the constant fear of discovery by fighters on both sides. At each turn, the family confronted the crushing reality of war. Betrayal from neighbors turned enemies, the silence after each strike holding the weight of potential death, the creeping hopelessness threatening to break their spirit. In one harrowing moment, as they crossed a contested checkpoint, a soldier's weapon was leveled at the boy. Time seemed to freeze. The mother's voice cracked as she pleaded, her words swallowed by the cold air. A tense silence held the breath of all waiting for a verdict of life or death. Then, a sudden order to lower weapons. The family moved on, hearts pounding, lungs burning with the narrow escape. But survival did not end with escape. The Al-Masris faced unrelenting challenges, displacement camps where hope was rationed like food, bureaucracies that saw them as numbers rather than people, the creeping shadow of trauma that haunted their nights. Through testimony found in declassified survivor accounts, we glimpsed their inner battles against despair, holding onto threads of resilience that refused to snap. The climax of their ordeal came when, after months on the move, they reached what was supposed to be a sanctuary, a foreign border offering safety and a chance at a new life. But peace was elusive. The camp was overcrowded, resources scarce, and threats still loomed from armed factions and the cold indifference of the outside world. In that crucible, the Al-Masris learned the bitter truth. Escape is only the first step in a war that never truly ends. Yet amid the devastation, there was an unexpected twist, a revelation uncovered in classified military archives and survivor interviews. For decades, the international community turned a blind eye to the Al-Masris plight. Reports were censored, footage buried, and the true scale of their suffering hidden beneath layers of political expediency and the fog of war. Th.